Hello Year 11 and welcome to video 1 of thesis writing and incorporating a stimulus as well as a text of study to respond to an essay question. Today's essay question is not your practice essay, and it's obviously also not your exam essay. It is one that I have composed to give you just an idea as to how you might use a stimulus and your novel, The Kite Runner, to respond to a question. So this question today we're going to be working through is self-preservation is a key cause of conflict in the novel. Examine this concept with close textual reference to The Kite Runner and the provided stimulus. Now, the provided stimulus is a series of written and visual stimuli that you would often find in the AST. So often you get a double spread quite similar to this. This is actually a year 10 stimulus page that I'm going to be using, but I wanted to use it to show that you really can link in overarching ideas with really anything. All right, so we'll look at that in a little bit more detail later. So guys, the first step that you want to be doing for any preparation, whether it's a practice essay or whether it's your exam, you want to be deconstructing the question and of course, the stimulus page in this case. So, first thing that you want to do is get your trusty highlighter and you want to be highlighting key terms or phrases in the question. So obviously for me, I would be looking at self-preservation as a key term, cause of conflict, and you just want to be aware that you're doing close textual reference to the actual novel, but you do need to be referring to your stimulus. All right, that's really, really important. What you then want to be thinking about is deconstructing your stimulus as well as the question. This is to make sense of what the question's really asking you and then relating it to some of the core ideas in the stimulus. So for example, it's just an easy brainstorm with the terms that you have perhaps just highlighted. So you might be thinking of things like self-preservation in relation to the I before all others. So individuals are looking out for themselves. Cause of conflict, that idea of disharmony or disconnect. And that's probably between characters, obviously. Maybe in relation to significant events that cause that conflict. You'd also be thinking about the relationship between self-preservation and causes of conflict, because the question's actually asking you to decide whether self-preservation and a person's sense of survival is actually a cause of disharmony or conflict in the text. So relationship between survival instinct and conflict. And that would probably do you, I think, for a question like this, because it's quite broad. You don't want to sort of overthink things. It's just those core ideas that sort of come to you when you first read this question. Now, in relation to deconstructing the stimulus, remember that with a stimulus, you do not need to be referring to every single stimulus that you've got here. This is literally to stimulate ideas. However, for me, from this particular stimulus, this excerpt here where it's talking about humans having an innate moral predisposition, which means that we actually have a sense of right and wrong instilled in us, that's a pretty core idea that jumps out at me. Probably this idea here that we look to others when making ethical determinations and, rules and such that actually exist in society already. But I'd probably be focusing on this concept of the others, the other people in our lives. All right. And probably this idea that we have a responsibility to each other. All right. So, in relation to the images, this idea that our moral decision making is made up of not only our emotions, but also our rational, analytical thinking. So it's logic, but also feeling. So this is probably pretty key in relation to these ideas. So what you'll see is I'm just picking particular ideas. Like I haven't even looked at this particular one. This is actually taken straight from the church in relation to the source of morality that we understand, but this directly relates to this anyway, this sense of innate morality. So my summary that I'd be putting on my essay planning with my deconstruction of the stimulus and the question would essentially be this idea that the stimulus addresses the concept of a pack moral obligation, and that's where this bit comes in, this sense that we look to others to determine our own ethical decision making. So that idea of the pack mentality regarding moral decisions. It's that idea that morals are a combination of emotions and rational thinking. And that, of course, is the image here. All right, so it's like quite an obvious image. All right, this concept that, you know, we're weighing up logical decision making with how we're feeling about a situation, and often, you know, that idea of the gut instinct, that's where that sort of comes in. And then probably my final point that I'd have here is this idea that we have an innate sense of morality. Now, already I am thinking about the characters in this text and how they link to some of these ideas, but we'll go on to argument, construction, and thesis writing in the next video.